One kind thing you can do is raise money for charity, but you can also challenge yourself at the same time. I know you've done that, Dad.
Yeah, I've done it a few times, Charlotte, but the interesting thing is actually it works in my favour as well, because I tend to be motivated by having a goal. So having a goal and having to train for something helps me, as well as helping raise a bit of cash for charity.
Yeah.
So a few years ago I did a 100-kilometre walk for guide dogs across Yorkshire. Which I was rubbish at, to be honest. I mean, I was meant.
Was that the overnight one?
Yeah, so it was the 24-hour one. But the mistake that I made is I did all of my training in London, which is quite a flat place, right? London is not particularly hilly. And then you go to Yorkshire, which is the hilliest place in the world. It's probably not, but it did seem to be at the time.
Another mistake you probably made was fueling yourself on jelly babies.
Oh, I tell you what, I've never eaten so many jelly babies in my life over that weekend. I ate a lot of porridge, but you know what I didn't do? Because the walk started off at a place called Pie Hall, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And that everybody was eating pies for breakfast, and I quite like a pie, but on that day I didn't have a pie. I just had a ton of jelly babies, which helped me short term, probably didn't help me over the longer term.
Weren't they doing like spaghetti and bolognese for dinner?
Yeah,
or something?
I had something, because there was some stop-offs over the way, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Thing is, I quite like walking, but one of the things that scares me a little bit more is heights, because I like tall buildings, and everywhere sort of I try and visit at least a couple of tall buildings, but usually I stay inside of them. So one of the things that I've done recently is just raise some cash by abseiling. Have you ever abseiled?
No.
Would you ever abseil?
Maybe if I get over my fear of falling, maybe, but like, no.
Yeah, so the first time I abseiled was probably about 10, and I was at my primary school, sort of last year, and they said to me, "Can you abseil from a window all the way down to..." And I'm not convinced. I mean, we're going back to the 80s now, Charlotte. I'm not convinced it was the safest action in the world, to be frank. But
Did you do it anyway?
I did it anyway. I once got caught in a gorilla suit while I was at school, but I'll tell you that story next time. But yeah, so that was...
What kind of gorilla? Like an actual gorilla or a gorilla? Like a...
What do you mean? Why is there two types of gorilla then? What?
Yeah, there's two different spellings of gorilla. Gorilla is in the jungle animal, and then there's like, we learned about it in history, and there's like a group of...
Oh, like an army gorilla.
Yeah, like an army gorilla.
Well, there's also the other gorilla. So you can. I was dressed as a animal gorilla, not an army gorilla. And while we're here, I might as well tell the story. I was about 11. It was for a school play. I was dressed as a gorilla, and I made the mistake of trying to take the gorilla fancy dress trousers off before I took my trainers off. So I've pulled these things off, and I got stuck in a pair of gorilla trousers, which in the end they had to cut me out of. I'm sure that happens to everybody, but anyway, so got caught in a pair of gorilla trousers. First time I abseiled was probably sort of 10 or 11, but then I didn't do it for like donkey's years, and only a couple of years ago did I do it again. Do you remember
the
that?
Orbit.
Yeah, it was the Orbit over the Olympic Park. Which I try and support a number of sort of different charities, but one that's particularly close to my heart is a children's hospice in East London called Richard House. So I was doing it for Richard House. So I signed up, raised a bit of cash before to do it, got there, and actually I didn't feel particularly nervous at the time.
Then you got to the top.
Well, exactly, I got to the top, and I'm thinking it's a bit more windy than I realised, because the wind is then sort of blowing and sort of stuff like that. And up there I got chatting to this guy called Mo, and he was telling me about how his son was actually in the hospice, and the fact that without the hospice's support their family would have been under real emotional pressure to look after the kids and do everything else and work and do everything else they needed to. So he had a really close emotional connection to the place and wanted to the charity and wanted to raise it. So we're up there. The wind's blowing. It's blowing a gale. If you don't know the orbit, it looks like. How would you describe the orbit?
Giant swirly slide.
It's
a giant red swirly slide.
It's a giant red swirly slide. It's like a helter-skelter. It's the largest sculpture in the UK. It's a sort of swirly red thing. And actually, they installed a slide that we've had a go on.
Yeah.
Which, when you look at it, actually sort of you think, man, I can live with that. You get to the top, and it's a little bit scarier. So having a chat with my new mate, he's telling me about his son and the awesome work that Richard House is doing, and then it's my turn, and then I'm getting really scared. So I walk up to the guy. And I say to him, just to reassure myself, so mate, how long have you been helping people abseil down buildings? And he turns around and goes, about 15 minutes. Now, to be frank, listeners, at that point in time, I didn't feel the most secure in the world that I've ever done. But he seemed to know what he was doing doing. He tied me on, and suddenly I'm abseiling down this giant structure. And all's well. I'm going all right. And then I start to spin.
Didn't you, end up on the ledge?
Oh yeah, I forgot. So when you abseil, one of the things you've got to do, if you've done it, and if you do, please let us know because it'd be interesting to hear your stories. Is at the orbit, you've got to lean on a ledge and then sort of let yourself down. So I've sort of leaned off. I'm wiggling. I can't find the ledge. And I just flop off the top of the orbit. I'm sort of lucky the ropes sort of kept me, but yeah. So I'm then sort of flopped off the orbit. I'm going down and I'm rotating slowly, just like a fairy, like a marionette, just rotating slowly as I got down. And my new mate is sort of like going down in really well. So got to the bottom. Did it and absolutely loved it. Not only because it's nice to do that sort of stuff, to tick a box and say I've done it, but also we raised a bit of cash for the charity as well, so that's good. What thing would you say was a thing that you'd want to do that would be also a challenge but also good to raise money for charity?
I don't know. I mean, a challenge would be something that helped me face my fears, but...
So would you do one with the heights or not?
I'm okay with heights. You can put me on the edge of a cliff and I'll be fine. Okay. But if you say you're going off the edge of this cliff...
Yeah, that's a little bit different, right?
That's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I can stand on the edge of a cliff and take a picture of a beautiful sunset. If you push me, that's when I'm uncomfortable. Yeah.
So how would you feel if somebody said, here's a rope, you're jumping off that cliff, but you'll be fine because you're connected to the rope?
God.
No? Not good.
No.
So the other thing that resulted in is Richard House now come back to me and say, would you like to do this again? So last year I did another abseil down Broadgate Tower, which is a big tower block in London. It's about 200 feet higher than the orbit, and you get to the top, and it's quite an exhilarating experience because you can see over London, so you can see St Paul's, and you can. So it's awesome. It's at Liverpool Street. This building, and you guys were at the bottom, weren't you? So you shot. Not
only did you see all the sights, we saw all the sights. The harness gave him a giant wedgie.
What?
The harness gave him a giant wedgie, and his top kept riding up.
Oh, I'm so glad I started telling this story. But the good news about that one is on that one, you were accompanied by an expert abseiler, and it was a guy, a fireman called Tej, and he sort of guided me down. But again, you had this image of this abseiling fireman who'd done it 20 times that day and probably thousands of times in his life. And just this guy pirouetting down the building, just slowly turning, getting the ropes all mixed up, kicking the building and trying to come off. But we did get to the bottom. And you're right, I did have a bit of a giant wedgie at the bottom.
That's why we only took a picture top up.
But you know what? Both times were great fun, and certainly if Richard Howes comes knocking again, I'll give it a go. I'm just trying to work out my sort of next challenge for this year, and I've got a feeling it's going to be the 3 peaks. So that should be a good one. So what are you going to do this year for charity, Charlotte?
Don't know. I'm not really I kind of just every once in a while, because I always carry change in my pocket. If I walk past a charity box, I'll just put £1 in.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should get you doing a bit more fundraising. How about that?
Yeah. I can bake some cheesecakes.
Baking some cheesecake sounds good. And on that note, I'm off to have some cheesecake.
What? Without me?